The unexpected arrival, the alarm systems throughout the Dominion border station erupted in synchronized chaos. Commander Zelther's 4 eyes snapped open as the emergency lights bathed his command chamber in pulsing crimson. For 300 cycles he had monitored this sector of space, the absolute edge of the Galactic Dominion's territory. Nothing ever happened here. The border was sacred, marked by ancient warning beacons that broadcast in every known language. Cross this line and face the wrath of 10,000 civilizations united under one banner. Zelther's communications officer, a thin crystalline being named Charlix, turned from her station with visible tremors running through her body. The tremors were a bad sign. Charlix had served in 3 wars and survived encounters with the savage Krell raiders. Whatever had triggered the alarms was serious enough to frighten a combat veteran. "Commander, we have an unidentified vessel," Charlix announced, her voice fracturing like breaking glass. "It crossed the boundary marker 7 minutes ago. The ship ignored all our warning broadcasts. It's still approaching at steady velocity." Zelther rose from his rest platform, his massive frame towering over the other crew members. He was Valdrin, a species known throughout the galaxy for their intimidating presence and unwavering dedication to protocol. His kind had enforced Dominion law for millennia. They were the iron fist that kept order among the stars. "Show me," he commanded. The main display screen flickered to life, showing a vessel that made Zelther pause. The ship was crude by Dominion standards, its hull composed of welded metal plates rather than the elegant energy-matter hybrids used by advanced civilizations. Primitive chemical thrusters pushed it forward, leaving trails of ionized particles. The design was blocky and utilitarian, with no consideration for aesthetic beauty or energy efficiency. This was the work of a young species, probably no more than a few centuries into their space age. "Analysis," Zelther demanded. The station's artificial intelligence responded immediately. "Vessel classification unknown. Technology level, estimated Tier 2, possibly early Tier 3. Power signature suggests nuclear fission reactors. Weapons detected, kinetic projectile systems, primitive missile arrays, basic laser cutting tools repurposed for defense. Threat level minimal to Dominion forces." Zelther felt his tension ease slightly. This was likely another case of a developing species stumbling into restricted space, unaware of the massive civilization they had just offended. It happened occasionally. Some young race would achieve faster-than-light travel and immediately rush outward, drunk on the possibilities of exploration. They never lasted long. The galaxy was far more dangerous than their primitive minds could comprehend. "Open a channel," Zelther ordered. "All languages, all frequencies. Let's educate these children before they get themselves killed." Charlix worked her controls and the transmission array powered up. Zelther stepped before the visual pickup, allowing the camera to capture his full imposing presence. He had done this speech dozens of times before. It was always effective. "Unidentified vessel, this is Commander Zelther of the Galactic Dominion Border Defense. You have violated sacred territory. You have crossed into space protected by the combined might of 10,000 civilized worlds. Your ship is surrounded by weapons capable of turning your vessel into atomic dust. You have one opportunity to comply. Reverse your course immediately, return to your system of origin and never return. Failure to comply will result in your destruction. You have 30 seconds to respond." The speech always worked. Young civilizations understood power. They understood consequences. They would see Zelther's size, see the massive weapons arrays pointing at their fragile ship, and they would turn around. It was simple mathematics. Survival versus pride. Survival always won. The 30 seconds passed in silence. Zelther frowned. Perhaps their translation systems were inadequate. He prepared to repeat the message with simpler language structures when the communication panel lit up with an incoming transmission. The unidentified vessel was responding. The face that appeared on the screen made Zelther's translator implant work overtime to identify the species. The being was bipedal with smooth skin and a pale tan color. Hair grew from the top of its head in an odd brown mass. 2 forward-facing eyes, common among predator species, regarded him with an expression that the translator identified as mild curiosity, mixed with friendliness. "Hello there," the being said, its mouth moving to form sounds that the translator rendered into galactic standard. "This is Captain Marcus Webb of the Earth exploration vessel Wanderer. We're receiving your transmission, but I think there might be some confusion. We're not here to cause trouble. We're just passing through on our way to investigate some interesting readings we picked up about 40 light-years spinward. Beautiful sector of space you've got here, by the way. The stellar formations are remarkable." Zelther stared at the screen, his mind struggling to process what he was hearing. The being, this Captain Webb, was treating this situation like a casual conversation between neighbors. There was no fear in those strange eyes, no panic in that steady voice. The human, for that was apparently what this species called themselves, seemed completely unconcerned that he was one command away from total annihilation. "Captain Webb," Zelther said slowly, keeping his voice measured and dangerous. "Perhaps you did not understand my message. You are in violation of Dominion space. This is not a negotiation. This is not a discussion. You will turn around or you will be destroyed." Marcus Webb smiled. The expression showed teeth, which among most species was a threat display. But the translator insisted this was a friendly gesture among humans. "I heard you, Commander. But see, here's the thing. We checked our star charts pretty carefully before we left Earth. This region isn't marked as belonging to anyone. It's open space. We're exercising our right to free navigation, as outlined in the principles of spacefaring conduct we established. We're not interfering with anyone, not making territorial claims, just passing through." Zelther felt his secondary hearts begin racing. This wasn't how these encounters went. The human was supposed to be terrified. "Your star charts are wrong," he growled. "The Dominion has claimed this territory for 15,000 of your years. Our beacons mark the boundary clearly." "Oh, those beacons?" Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "Yeah, we picked up those signals about 2 days ago. Interesting technology. We tried to respond, but the communication protocols were pretty ancient. Our AI spent hours trying to crack the encryption, eventually gave up and decided we'd just explain ourselves if we ran into anyone. Which, hey, here we are. Nice to meet you, by the way." Behind Zelther, Charlix whispered urgently. "Commander, they didn't understand the warnings. Their technology couldn't interpret the beacon signals. They genuinely don't know what they've done." But that wasn't what bothered Zelther. What bothered him was the complete absence of appropriate fear. He had made himself clear. He had explained the danger. Yet this human captain continued speaking as if they were discussing weather patterns instead of potential warfare. "Captain Webb," Zelther said, forcing calm into his voice, "I will demonstrate something to you. Perhaps your species learns better through visual examples." He gestured to his weapons officer, a heavily armored Crozon named Vex. "Target the asteroid cluster 3,000 kilometers from their position. Full power. Fire!" The border station's main particle beam cannons charged with a sound that vibrated through the hull. Then they fired, sending streams of accelerated particles across the void. The asteroid cluster, 30 massive rocks that had drifted in space for billions of years, simply ceased to exist. One moment they were there. The next moment there was only expanding clouds of vapor and a flash of thermal energy that lit up every sensor for 1,000 kilometers. Zelther turned back to the communication screen, expecting to see terror on the human's face. Instead, Marcus Webb was leaning forward, his eyes bright with what the translator identified as excitement. "Wow," Marcus breathed. "That was incredible. What kind of energy output are we talking about?" Those particle streams were traveling at what, 0.7 light speed? The focusing arrays alone must require quantum-level precision. We've been working on particle beam theory for decades, but we haven't solved the power consumption problems. How do you generate that much energy efficiently? Zelther's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. The human had just watched a demonstration of overwhelming destructive force, and his response was academic curiosity. "Captain Webb, I just destroyed 30 asteroids to show you what will happen to your ship if you do not comply." Right, I got that," Marcus said quickly. "Very impressive show of force, really. But I have to be honest with you, Commander. Threatening us isn't going to work. It's not that we're not impressed by your weapons. They're clearly centuries beyond anything we've built. It's just that we didn't come all this way to turn around because someone told us we couldn't pass through empty space. That's not really how humans operate." "Then how do humans operate?" Zelther asked, genuinely confused now. Marcus leaned back in his chair, spreading his hands in a gesture the translator labeled as openness. "We're stubborn, Commander. It's kind of our thing. Throughout our history, every time someone told us something was impossible, we did it anyway. Every time someone said we couldn't go somewhere, we went there. We flew when everyone said we couldn't fly. We split the atom when they said it couldn't be split. We left our planet when physics said we'd never break orbit, and then we figured out faster-than-light travel when every equation said it was impossible. Being told no just makes us more determined. Zelthir felt something he rarely experienced: uncertainty. In his 300 cycles of service, he had encountered hundreds of species. Some were aggressive, some were peaceful, some were cunning, and some were foolish. But he had never met a species that responded to overwhelming military superiority with polite defiance and scientific curiosity. "Your ship has 30 crew members," Zelthir said, trying a different approach. "I have 300 armed soldiers on this station alone. Within 1 hour I can have 50 warships here. Within 1 day, I can have a fleet that could sterilize your entire homeworld. Do you understand these numbers, Captain Webb?" "I do," Marcus said quietly, and for the first time his expression became serious. "And I understand you're trying to protect your territory." "I respect that. But Commander, Earth has 7 billion people. We've fought wars that killed millions. We've faced plagues that wiped out continents. We've stared extinction in the face more times than I can count, and we're still here. We're still pushing forward. We're still exploring. That's not going to change because we met someone bigger and stronger than us. That's never changed in our entire history." Zelthir sat down slowly, his mind racing. This wasn't protocol. This wasn't how first contacts proceeded. But something in the human's words resonated with a truth that transcended species. These humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish, and Zelthir wasn't sure which. "What do you propose?" he finally asked, surprising himself with the question. Marcus smiled again. "We keep going. You watch us pass through. Nobody gets hurt, nobody starts a war. In a few days we'll be out of your territory and investigating our stellar phenomena. Then we'll head home with data about beautiful space formations and stories about meeting the Galactic Dominion. Everyone wins." "Absolutely not," Zelthir said immediately. "The law is clear. No unauthorized vessels in Dominion space." "Then authorize us," Marcus suggested. "Give us a temporary pass. Isn't that better than starting an interstellar incident over what amounts to a misunderstanding?" Before Zelthir could respond, Sharlix interrupted urgently. "Commander, I'm detecting multiple jump signatures. 7 Krell Raider ships just entered the sector. They're heading directly for our position." Zelthir's blood went cold. The Krell were savage pirates who attacked anything they encountered. They were one of the few species in the galaxy that the Dominion couldn't fully control, constantly raiding border regions and fleeing before major forces could respond. And now they were here, attracted by the energy signatures from the weapon demonstration. "Battle stations," Zelthir commanded. "All personnel to combat positions." On the communication screen, Marcus Webb was consulting with someone off camera. Then he looked back at Zelthir. "Commander, our sensors just picked up those ships too." "We're reading weapons charging. I think they're targeting both of us." "This is not your concern, human," Zelthir said. "You should flee while you can. Your ship is no match for Krell Raiders." Marcus's expression shifted into something that the translator struggled to identify. It was determination mixed with something else. Something fierce. "With respect, Commander, we don't abandon people who are about to be attacked. Even if those people were threatening us a few minutes ago. If you're about to fight, we're going to help." "Your weapons are primitive," Zelthir protested. "Maybe," Marcus agreed. "But primitive weapons still hurt. And we've got a few tricks that might surprise you. Besides, after that weapons demonstration, we owe you one. Let's call this a gesture of good faith." The Krell ships were accelerating now, spreading into attack formation. Zelthir had seconds to make a decision. He could order the humans to flee, but something told him they wouldn't listen. These strange, stubborn beings from Earth had wandered into the Empire's territory and refused to be intimidated. Perhaps it was time to see if their courage was matched by competence. "Very well, Captain Webb," Zelthir said. "Welcome to the Galactic Dominion. Try not to get killed in the next few minutes." Marcus grinned. "Commander, we've been trying not to get killed since we climbed down from the trees. We're pretty good at it by now." The battle was about to begin, and Zelthir realized that everything he thought he knew about humanity was about to be tested. The test of resolve. The Krell attack formation spread across the sensor display like a predator's claw. 7 warships, each one bristling with weapons scavenged from a dozen different civilizations, moved with practiced coordination. They had done this before many times. Border stations were easy targets, isolated and usually undermanned. The Krell would strike fast, overwhelm the defenses, plunder whatever they could carry, and vanish back into the uncharted territories before reinforcements arrived. Commander Zelthier watched the tactical display with grim determination. His station had 42 functional weapon emplacements, shields rated to withstand sustained assault for approximately 18 minutes, and a crew trained for exactly this scenario. They would hold. They always held. The Dominion did not surrender territory to pirates and savages. Shields to maximum, Zelthier commanded. Charge all weapons arrays. Transmit distress signal to Fleet Command. Standard defensive formation. His crew moved with efficient precision, each member performing their assigned tasks without hesitation. The station's massive shield generators hummed to life, creating invisible barriers of electromagnetic force around the structure. Weapon systems came online, targeting computers locking onto the approaching Krell vessels. Within seconds, the border station transformed from a monitoring outpost into a fortress. Commander, the human vessel is moving, Charlix reported, her crystalline form pulsing with nervous energy. They're positioning themselves between us and the Krell formation. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Zelthier pulled up the communication channel and heard Captain Marcus Webb's voice, steady and clear, speaking in what the translator identified as English before rendering it into Galactic Standard. Krell vessels. This is Captain Marcus Webb of the Earthship Wanderer. You are approaching a Galactic Dominion installation with weapons armed. Stand down immediately. We are authorized to defend this station with lethal force if necessary. Turn back now and no one needs to get hurt. For a moment there was silence. Then the Krell response came through, a cacophony of growls and snarls that the translator struggled to interpret. The meaning was clear enough even without perfect translation. The Krell were laughing. One of the Krell commanders, a scarred veteran named Krax, judging by the ship identification tags, spoke in broken Galactic Standard. Little prey ship thinks it can stop Krell. You die first. Then we take Dominion Station. Then we take your ship pieces as trophies. Zelthier activated the direct channel to the Wanderer. Captain Webb, you should withdraw. The Krell do not negotiate. They do not show mercy. Your ship is a fraction of their size. Marcus's face appeared on the screen again, and Zelthier noticed something different in the human's expression. The friendly curiosity was gone, replaced by cold calculation. Commander, I appreciate the concern, but we've dealt with bullies before. Besides, your station has families on board, right? Civilians? We're not leaving. How did you know about the civilians? Zelthier asked, surprised. We scanned your station's life signs when we first arrived, Marcus admitted. Standard procedure. We counted 317 individuals, including 62, that match the biological profiles of juveniles based on size and metabolic rates. That means children, Commander. So yeah, we're staying. Before Zelthier could respond, the Krell opened fire. Plasma bolts and kinetic projectiles streaked across the void, targeting both the station and the human vessel. The border station's shields flared brilliant blue as they absorbed the impacts, energy dissipating across the defensive field in cascading waves. The attack was heavy but manageable. For now. The Wanderer, however, didn't have shields. The human ship maneuvered with surprising agility, its primitive thrusters firing in complex sequences that sent it twisting through space. Krell weapons fire passed through empty space where the ship had been moments before. The Wanderer was small and fast, using its size as an advantage, dodging between plasma bolts like a dancer avoiding raindrops. Return fire, Zelthier commanded. His weapons officers unleashed the station's particle beam cannons, the same weapons that had vaporized asteroids minutes earlier. 2 Krell ships took direct hits, their shields buckling under the assault. But the Krell were experienced raiders. They scattered their formation, making themselves harder targets while maintaining constant fire on the station. Then the Wanderer fired its weapons, and Zelthier understood why Marcus had been confident. The human ship's kinetic cannons might have been primitive, but they fired with devastating speed. Thousands of projectiles per minute, each one a small piece of dense metal accelerated to incredible velocities. The Krell shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, were less effective against solid matter. Holes appeared in their defensive screens, and human projectiles punched through armor plating. Impressive, Vex, the Crozon weapons officer, muttered. They're using volume of fire to overwhelm shield recharge rates. Crude but effective. 1 Krell ship damaged by the human attack veered away from the formation. The other 6 intensified their assault, focusing on the Wanderer, now that they recognized it as a threat. Plasma fire surrounded the human vessel, and Zelthir watched in horror as several bolts struck the ship's hull. Metal vaporized. Sections of the outer plating peeled away. Atmosphere vented into space from ruptured compartments. "Wanderer, report status," Zelthir demanded. Marcus's image flickered on the screen, and Zelthir could see smoke in the background. Alarms were blaring on the human bridge. "We've taken damage to decks 3 and 4. No casualties yet, but our hull integrity is at 70%. We've sealed the breached sections. Still in the fight, Commander? Withdraw to the protection of our shields," Zelthir ordered. "You've done enough." "Negative," Marcus replied. "We're more effective out here. The Krell keep focusing on us because we're annoying them. That gives your station time to pick them off. It's basic pack hunting tactics, Commander. One member distracts the prey while the others move in for the kill. Except in this case, we're not the prey." Zelthir realized the human was right. The Krell, enraged by the persistent attacks from the small Earth vessel, were making tactical mistakes. They were bunching together, trying to bring overwhelming fire on the Wanderer, which made them vulnerable to the station's heavy weapons. Zelthir's gunners exploited every opening, and another Krell ship exploded in a ball of plasma as its reactor was breached. 5 Krell ships remained, but they were adapting. Their formation spread wider, forcing the station to divide its fire. The leader, Krax, opened a channel. "Dominion Station, you fight well. But you will fall. We have reinforcements coming. 12 more ships. You cannot win." Charlix checked her sensors frantically. "Commander, he's telling the truth. I'm detecting multiple jump signatures. More Krell vessels entering the sector." Zelthir felt his confidence waver. Against 7 ships, they had a chance. Against 19, the mathematics of warfare became stark and unforgiving. The station would fall. The civilians would die, and there was nothing he could do about it except die fighting. "Fleet Command?" he asked quietly. Reinforcements estimated arrival time. 47 minutes. Charlix responded, her voice cracking with despair. They didn't have 47 minutes. They had maybe 10 before they were overwhelmed. Zelthir prepared to give the order to evacuate the civilians, knowing most wouldn't make it to the escape pods before the Krell broke through their defenses. Then Marcus Webb's voice cut through the command channel. "Commander Zelthir, I have a suggestion. It's risky, it's probably crazy, but it might work." "I'm listening, Captain." "The Krell reinforcements are jumping in from deeper space, right? That means they're using a standard jump corridor. They'll emerge in a predictable location." Marcus paused. "What if we give them a surprise when they arrive?" "What kind of surprise?" Zelthir asked, though he suspected he knew what the human was thinking. "The Wanderer's reactor can be overloaded," Marcus explained calmly, as if he wasn't proposing his own death. "We set it to go critical, position the ship at their jump point, and when they emerge from faster than light, they'll find themselves in the middle of a nuclear explosion. It won't destroy all of them, but it'll damage their formation. Maybe take out a few ships. Give you enough breathing room to hold until your reinforcements arrive. That would mean sacrificing your vessel and crew," Zelthir said slowly. "Not necessarily," Marcus replied, and Zelthir heard something in the human's voice that sounded almost like excitement. "We've got escape pods. They're basic, but they'll get us clear of the blast radius. We set the reactor, launch the pods toward your station, and let physics do the rest. It's not perfect, but it's better than sitting here waiting to die." Zelthir looked at his tactical display. The current 5 Krell ships were steadily hammering away at his shields. Another 12 were minutes away from arrival. The human plan was insane. It relied on precise timing, accurate jump point prediction, and the assumption that the Wanderer's crew could successfully evacuate in time. There were a dozen ways it could fail. It was also their only chance. "Do it," Zelthir said. "But Captain Webb, if you and your crew survive this, you have my personal guarantee of safe passage through Dominion space. Forever." Marcus grinned despite the chaos visible behind him. "We'll hold you to that, Commander. Wanderer out." The human ship broke away from the battle, accelerating toward the predicted jump point with its damaged engines straining. The Krell, sensing an opportunity, pursued with 3 of their vessels. Zelthir ordered concentrated fire on those pursuers, keeping them busy while the Wanderer reached its destination. Charlix counted down the time. "Krell reinforcements jumping in 30 seconds, 25, 20. On the visual feed, Zelthir watched small objects detach from the Wanderer. The escape pods, simple metal spheres propelled by chemical rockets, scattered like seeds in the wind. They were primitive vessels, barely more than pressurized containers with basic life support. But they were moving away from the Wanderer, carrying the human crew to safety. 15 seconds, Charlix announced. 10, 9, 8. The Wanderer hung in space, its reactor building toward catastrophic failure. Zeltir could see the energy readings climbing exponentially on his sensors. The ship was becoming a bomb. 7, 6, 5. The Krell reinforcements began emerging from their jump, 12 massive warships materializing in real space. They appeared in formation, ready to join the battle, their sensors immediately detecting the border station and preparing to fire. 4, 3, 2. The Wanderer's reactor went critical. The explosion was not like the clean particle beam demonstration Zeltir had performed earlier. This was raw primal destruction, nuclear fusion unleashed in an instant, turning the human ship into a miniature star. The blast wave expanded at a significant fraction of light speed, catching the Krell reinforcements before they could react. 3 Krell ships were completely destroyed, simply disintegrating under the thermal and kinetic assault. 4 more were heavily damaged, their shields burned away, their hulls twisted and torn. The remaining 5 were scattered, their formation broken, their crews disoriented by the unexpected attack. The original 5 Krell ships that had been attacking the station stopped firing, their commanders shocked by what they had just witnessed. A single small vessel had destroyed itself to cripple their reinforcements. It was an act of sacrifice that the Krell, who valued only strength and survival, couldn't comprehend. Zeltir didn't give them time to recover. All weapons target the damaged vessels. Fire at will. Launch fighters. Seal the kill zone. The border station's full military might unleashed. Particle beams, plasma cannons, missile barrages, everything Zeltir commanded struck the reeling Krell forces. The damaged ships, already struggling with system failures from the nuclear blast, couldn't mount effective defense. One by one, they were destroyed or forced to retreat. The remaining Krell vessels, realizing they had lost the advantage, jumped away. The battle was over. Zeltir immediately ordered recovery operations for the human escape pods. His crew worked frantically, using tractor beams to pull the primitive vessels into the station's landing bays. Medical teams stood ready, unsure what to expect from this alien species. The first escape pod opened and Captain Marcus Webb stumbled out, his face covered in soot, his uniform torn, but alive. He looked around at the assembled Dominion personnel and managed a weak smile. Well, that was exciting. Everyone make it? Zeltir approached the human, his massive form dwarfing Marcus's comparatively small stature. For a long moment, he simply looked at this strange being who had wandered into Imperial territory, refused to be intimidated, and then saved hundreds of lives through courage and ingenuity. Then Commander Zeltir did something he had never done in his 300 cycles of service. He bowed. It was a gesture of deep respect among his people, reserved for warriors who had proven themselves in battle. Captain Webb, Zeltir said formally, on behalf of the Galactic Dominion, I extend to you and your crew our profound gratitude. You fought with honor. You saved lives. You demonstrated qualities that we respect above all others: courage, selflessness, and determination. Marcus returned the bow awkwardly, clearly unfamiliar with the gesture. We just did what anyone would do, Commander. No, Zeltir corrected gently. You did what humans do. You wandered into our territory. You refused to be intimidated by threats or overwhelming force, and when faced with impossible odds, you found a way to win. I am beginning to understand your species, Captain Webb. I believe the galaxy is about to be introduced to something remarkable. Over the next hour, all 30 human crew members were recovered safely. They were brought into the station, given medical treatment for minor injuries, and offered food and rest. The Dominion personnel, initially wary, found themselves fascinated by these strange beings who treated near-death experiences with casual humor and bottomless curiosity. When reinforcements finally arrived, 47 minutes late as predicted, they found the battle already won. Fleet Admiral Corvin, a distinguished officer with centuries of experience, boarded the station and demanded a full report. Zeltir provided every detail, including the part about threatening to destroy the human vessel. Admiral Corvin listened in silence, his expression unreadable. When Zeltir finished, the Admiral turned to Marcus Webb, who stood waiting with his crew. Captain Webb, Corvin said slowly, you violated Dominion territory. Under our laws, that is an act of aggression that warrants severe consequences. Marcus stood straight, meeting the Admiral's gaze without flinching. Yes, sir, we did. We didn't mean any harm, but I understand that ignorance isn't an excuse. If there are consequences, my crew and I will face them. Corvin's stern expression suddenly broke into something that might have been a smile. The consequence, Captain, is that you and your crew are hereby granted honorary citizenship in the Galactic Dominion. You are welcome in our space anytime, anywhere. Furthermore, I am recommending to the High Council that formal diplomatic relations be established with Earth immediately. Any species capable of producing individuals like you deserves a place among the civilized worlds. Marcus blinked in surprise. Thank you, Admiral. That's very generous. Generous? Corvin laughed, a deep rumbling sound. Captain, you wandered into our territory, faced down Commander Zelthir without fear, fought beside us against a superior enemy force, and sacrificed your ship to save people you'd never met. That's not someone we want as an enemy. That's someone we want as an ally. In the days that followed, the story of the human crew who refused to be intimidated spread throughout the Dominion. It became a tale told in academies and military training centers, an example of courage and ingenuity that transcended species and culture. Diplomatic envoys were sent to Earth, and the first official contact between humanity and the Galactic Dominion was established. Captain Marcus Webb and his crew returned to Earth as heroes, bringing with them technology, knowledge, and, most importantly, proof that humanity was not alone in the universe. The Wanderer was gone, sacrificed in the cold void between stars, but what it represented, human determination, curiosity, and refusal to back down in the face of the impossible, would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. And in his private quarters on the border station, Commander Zelthir kept a small piece of debris recovered from the Wanderer's explosion. It was a twisted fragment of metal with part of the ship's name still visible. He kept it as a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous beings in the universe weren't the ones with the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. Sometimes they were the ones who simply refused to be intimidated, who wandered into places they weren't supposed to be, and who faced overwhelming odds with nothing but courage and a stubborn refusal to give up. The galaxy had just met humanity, and nothing would ever be quite the same again.